There are things you can buy with money that look impressive for 5 minutes. A watch, a car, a house, a piece of jewelry. You take a picture, people notice it, and eventually it becomes normal. But then there are experiences that do something completely different. They stay in your head. Years later, you can close your eyes and remember exactly what the room looked like, what the air smelled like, what the person next to you said, and how it felt to realize that for one strange moment, you were somewhere almost nobody gets to experience. And if you have enough money, the world starts offering experiences that sound almost fictional.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding you want to see the Northern Lights, not from a crowded tourist area. You're staying in a glass cabin in the middle of the Arctic, surrounded by snow and almost complete darkness. There are no city lights, no traffic, no crowds, just silence. You step outside with a cup of coffee, look toward the sky, and suddenly the darkness begins to move. Green and violet light stretches across the sky like someone is painting directly above you. You don't need a luxury watch at that moment. You don't need a supercar.
Damn!
You don't even need your phone. You just stand there. And that is the strange thing about expensive experiences. The most memorable part is often the part you can't buy directly. The feeling, the anticipation, the fact that you know you are seeing something that most people will never see this way. But if the Arctic isn't your thing, imagine going somewhere even more remote. A private island, not a resort with hundreds of guests. An island that is essentially yours for the week. You wake up and there isn't a single stranger on the beach. There are no crowds fighting for the best chair, no children running past your table, no one checking in beside you. You walk barefoot toward the water and realize something almost ridiculous. The entire beach is empty because it belongs to your experience. Breakfast is waiting outside. The ocean is in front of you. And for a few days, the rest of the world might as well not exist. But eventually, even beaches can start to feel familiar. So, what if you wanted something that required a little more courage? Imagine going to Antarctica, not simply taking a cruise and watching the continent from a window, actually stepping onto the ice. You look around and see a landscape that feels completely disconnected from ordinary life. Huge walls of ice, mountains rising out of nowhere, penguins moving across the shoreline, cold air hitting your face. There are no skyscrapers, no traffic, no advertisements, nothing reminding you that you're supposed to be somewhere else. For a moment, it feels like you've reached the end of the earth. And perhaps that's what some people are really paying for. Not comfort, perspective. Because when you spend your entire life surrounded by screens, traffic, buildings, and noise, standing somewhere untouched can make your normal life feel completely different when you return. But maybe you want something faster. Something that makes your heart beat. Imagine being invited onto a Formula One circuit after the race weekend. The grandstands are empty, the track is quiet, and then you're handed the keys to a performance car. You enter the circuit, the engine comes alive. You accelerate down a straight where professional drivers were pushing machines to their limits only hours earlier. The brakes hit. The corner approaches. Your entire body moves with the car. For a few minutes, nothing else exists. No emails, no meetings, no responsibilities, just speed. And when you finally return to the pit lane, your hands are still shaking. That's an experience money can buy. But there are experiences where money doesn't simply give you access. It gives you proximity to something extraordinary. Imagine having dinner prepared by one of the world's greatest chefs. But instead of sitting in the restaurant, you're inside the kitchen. You watch every plate being created. You see the ingredients arrive. You hear the chefs calling orders. You taste something directly from the pan. And then, after watching the entire process, you sit down and eat the finished meal. Suddenly, dinner isn't just dinner. You've seen the story behind it, and that's what separates memorable luxury from expensive luxury. One gives you an object. The other gives you a story. Now imagine taking that idea somewhere completely different. A private viewing of an artwork that almost nobody gets to see. The museum is closed. The lights are low. There are no crowds standing between you and the painting. You can stand there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, and instead of rushing to the next exhibit, you simply look. Maybe you're surrounded by centuries of history. Maybe you're seeing a piece worth more than most people will earn in several lifetimes. But the real luxury is being able to experience it without the noise, without the crowd, without someone saying, "Keep moving." Sometimes money buys something incredibly simple. Space. Space around you. Space to think. Space to appreciate something. And then there are experiences that completely change the way you see a city. Imagine arriving in Paris, and instead of spending the day following a tour group, you're taken above the city at night. The Eiffel Tower is glowing. The streets below are filled with tiny moving lights. You have dinner somewhere private, with the city stretching out beneath you. And for a few hours, Paris isn't something you're visiting. It feels like the city has been arranged specifically for you. Then morning comes, and you leave. No souvenir is necessary. You already have the memory, but perhaps one of the most incredible experiences money can buy happens far away from cities. Imagine going into space. For decades, space travel belonged almost exclusively to governments and astronauts. Now, private. Companies are beginning to make the experience available to civilians. Imagine watching Earth through a window and seeing the planet without borders. No countries, no traffic, no arguments, just one blue world floating in an enormous darkness. You might spend millions to get there. But when you look back at Earth, the number probably becomes irrelevant. Because suddenly, all the things people fight about down there look incredibly small. And maybe that's the strange power of extraordinary experiences. They can change your sense of scale. But you don't need to leave Earth to experience something unforgettable. Imagine taking a luxury train through Africa. You're sitting in a beautifully designed cabin as the landscape moves outside your window. Then you look out and see elephants in the distance. Later, giraffes, then an endless sunset. You aren't rushing through the landscape. You're watching it unfold. Dinner is served as the train moves through the night. You wake up somewhere completely different. It's not just transportation. The journey itself becomes the destination. And that idea is becoming increasingly important in luxury. Because people who can buy almost anything eventually stop asking, "What can I own?" They start asking, "What can I experience?" That question opens an entirely different world. You could learn to sail, dive beneath the surface of the ocean, climb a mountain, fly a helicopter over a glacier, spend a week in the middle of the desert, rent a historic castle, take a yacht through places inaccessible by road, learn to cook with a legendary chef, attend an event that normally happens behind closed doors, or simply disappear somewhere beautiful with the people you care about. And here's what makes all of this interesting. The most expensive experience isn't necessarily the best one. You could spend millions on a trip and come home disappointed. You could spend almost nothing on a beach with someone you love and remember it for the rest of your life. Money can create the opportunity. It can remove the inconvenience. It can open the door. But it cannot guarantee that what happens after you walk through it will mean something. That's why the ultimate luxury isn't simply access, it's meaning. Imagine you're 80 years old. You have the house, the cars, the watches, the photographs, the trophies, and eventually, what do you remember? Probably not the receipt, not the price, not the brand. You remember the night you saw the Northern Lights, the first time you stepped onto Antarctic ice, the moment your child saw the ocean for the first time, the dinner where everyone laughed until they couldn't breathe, the strange little hotel you found by accident, the road trip that wasn't supposed to happen, the place where you looked around and thought, "I can't believe I'm actually here." Because eventually, luxury stops being about collecting things. It becomes about collecting moments, and moments have one brutal advantage over possessions. You can't replace them. You can't buy another version. You can't put them in a garage. You have to be there when they happen. So maybe the richest person isn't the one with the largest collection of cars. Maybe it's the person who has lived enough life to have 1,000 stories worth telling. Because a supercar can impress someone for a few seconds. A memory can stay with you for decades. And when the money, the houses, the watches, and everything else eventually become ordinary, those moments are the things that remain. The real luxury isn't owning the world. It's having the freedom to experience the parts of it that most people only ever dream about.